Hello, I'm Ezra Haugabrooks from Ballet and Dance Orchestra, and you're watching the Tampa Bay Community Network.
Hi, and welcome to Culture Vultures. I'm Linda Saul-Sena, and I have a fascinating guest today, Ezra Haugabrooks, the founder and artistic director of BADO, which stands for Ballet and Dance Orchestra. Welcome, Ezra.
Thank you.
So I'm so looking forward to this. Let's start by explaining to everybody what BADO is.
Okay, BADO is an acronym for Ballet and Dance Orchestra. So essentially, I thought it sounded cool.
It does sound cool.
I know, right? That's what I was going for. Ballet and Dance Orchestra essentially is a company that provides services to arts organizations, small and large, who essentially do dance or ballet or opera or zarzuela, and don't necessarily have the capital to pay for a standard orchestra. So they get a standard orchestra or chamber orchestra without having to go into serious amounts of distress in the fundraising process. So I take on that stress of fundraising for the orchestra, and they can focus on other areas that are similarly important. So for example, if you are a Opera Tampa or St. Petersburg Opera or Tampa Ballet,
and they do great work.
Amazing.
I've been so impressed by the quality of their performances.
This area, you cannot believe how fertile this area is, Linda. When it comes
to... Is it because we have so many good artists who come down here?
I think it's a combination of things. I think it's the fact that we have a diverse area, which brings a lot of not only different types of people, but different thinkers into the area. We have a lot of money in this area. So I think those two factors help. But in any case, the most important thing is this is a very fertile place. I thought it wasn't. I was in Michigan for a time doing my education, and I played in 4 orchestras there, viola. I played in Southwest Michigan, I played in Indiana, I played in Illinois, 2 orchestras in Illinois. And I thought, man, I'm gonna go to Florida and there's nothing there. My conducting teacher was like, Ezra, you're not gonna find anything. Florida Orchestra can't hire right now, and he was telling me all the bad stuff to keep me alert. I get down here and I start digging through, and there's a lot of amazing companies, small ones like South Florida Lyric Tampa. They have so many little ones you never heard of. But their problem is exactly why I exist, which is, how are we gonna pay $45,000 for an orchestra?
Is that how much it costs to have Is it, for example, if an opera's put on 3 days,
right?
It costs that much for the live music?
This is interesting. Let me break this down.
Sure.
Okay, so you have a violist.
Yep.
As soon as that violist shows up, it's $120 for them to sit in that seat for 2 hours. That's the union rate in Florida for any standard musician to sit in your seat. So you multiply 120 by me and 4 or 5 services. A service is essentially, I sat in that seat for your rehearsal. I played an orchestra read, I played a dress rehearsal, I played a Vondel probe if you're doing, a Vondel or Sitz probe if you're doing opera. I played
What does that mean?
A Sitz probe is where you sit and you read through the music with the conductor, the singers, everyone. A Vondel probe is where you go through staging with an orchestra.
Do you pay a musician more for the performance than for the practice, or is it a standard rate for each?
Every time they sit down, they're worth their butt in that chair. You're paying them for what they play. If they play 2 notes, doesn't matter, they get $120 for that service.
That's so interesting. I've never thought about the economics of an orchestra.
That's why a lot of orchestras and opera companies have trouble, because how do you pay? The timpanist came and played 2 notes and we're paying him. It can be hard to rationalize until it's not there, and then you're like, oh, what's happening? So anyway, let me tell you this interesting thing. While in school in Michigan at a small Adventist school, I went to see ballets, Nutcracker, or I would go see other things that were in the area.
Yes.
And then when I see Nutcracker, it was without an orchestra. It was a recording.
Because that's what they could afford.
How can you afford 120 per service, 5 or 6 services, and ballet is difficult? 5 or 6 services with the orchestra, when the costs start to get above $45,000 for a production, it becomes unthinkable for a lot of small companies. And their main draw is a Nutcracker. So anyway, my imagination started to spark at that point. I'm like, I'm a young kid, I love this music, I want to conduct. That's what my passion is. I've always had that passion. So I was like, all right, I'm here listening to a recording and watching a live performance. Those two things bothered me, and that was in 2008. Fast forward to 2015, 2016, I was like, okay, I want the experience. How do I get it? What do they need? They need an orchestra, but they don't have the personnel to do grant writing, to do sponsorships and ad sales. I'm young, I can do this. I can walk down the street to a company and say, hey, your kid's in Nutcracker. Wouldn't you love to give them the best? Yeah.
I love it. That's great.
The best is a live orchestra.
It makes such a difference. It's like the difference between frozen orange juice and fresh. You know, it's just
Precisely.
a world of difference.
Concentrate or the real thing. Did you press it? And I think what we've been giving our kids and the general public is concentrate when they deserve the real thing. And let me explain why
I was going to say, I used to have frozen, which isn't even as good as concentrate. So.
Yeah, it doesn't taste as good, and it doesn't make sense practically to build a community based on a frozen product.
Right.
Right? Because my kid, for example, I have a 4-year-old son, okay? I love this little person a lot, okay? And I want to give him the best. But why? Well, because his mind is active. You know, he touches everything. If you were here now, he'd be running in circles, exploring. He'd be going, listening to the vibrate. He understands that things echo, right? And then you give him a performance where he sees dancers. We went to Sarasota, I, and his mom, to watch the ballet company there. Fascinated. He was hearing something that was moving. You know, a recording moves, but not like vibrations in a room. He was fascinated by the fact that it was there. Then I showed him the orchestra pit and the conductor. He was just like fascinated by all this. So you're giving a kid an experience that they won't ever forget and they'll draw upon for the rest of their lives. And how they use it is up to their experiences, up to the love they were given, and up to their calling in life. And I mean that as what drives their passion. What drives my passion is people, connecting with people, and music is the best way to do that.
Absolutely, it's amazingly effective.
Especially dance. You know, like you were telling me before, dance is an expressive thing. Put dance and music together, and you can communicate things you wouldn't be able to with your mouth. Like, I'm talking now, and I may be talking fast, or I may be talking in a way people don't understand, but you put me with an instrument in my hands, and I can tell you things that really I couldn't say with my mouth without you feeling like he's being disingenuous. Like, I paid you a compliment before, and you're probably like, okay, you're just being overly nice. But with music, I can tell you something.
It made me feel good, though.
It did? Thank God. Because after I went away, I was worried. I was like, oh my goodness. But I'm not, I mean, I was being genuine. But because of the nature of our language, English is so complex and it's so smashed together, saying things sometimes has triple meanings.
Absolutely.
And with music, there is no triple meaning. You know, with dance, there is no triple meaning. I'm there giving you all I have. And you may look at it and be like, maybe somebody else could do better, but you're like fascinated by the fact that I'm communicating from my soul to you. And it's the most genuine, most flattering thing when somebody sits with an instrument or dances and speaks from their soul. Because you know they're not lying. You know that they're giving you all they have at a visceral level. It's beautiful. And our kids need to see that expression.
We all love live performance. But I hadn't thought about the fact that when I was growing up here in Tampa Bay, I saw real dancers and canned music.
Did you see Can Music too? Because I thought there
Yes.
was a company here at some point.
Well, yes, but it was what they could afford. So what you're working on providing to dance companies and theater companies
Right.
is live music, and you organize that, and you help get the underwriting for it,
Right.
and then they can just have this incredibly improved experience.
Right. Well, let's talk economics.
Okay.
I'm not an economics major, but whatever. I like the idea.
Well, you have
Okay.
to speak. You have to explain it simply so that the general public, and most especially me, will get it.
Right. Okay. So as we discussed earlier, a musician, a highly qualified musician, which I know a lot of them.
Yes.
I've played with Florida Orchestra members. I played with Sarasota Orchestra members. I meet musicians all the time. When I go to festivals, I meet musicians from Juilliard to Curtis to all the way over in UCLA.
Right.
So I know a lot of musicians, all of which will come and play if I ask. We have a friendship, we have a bond. Remember, this is about people. So this is how the economics works. You want to build a chamber orchestra to give a live, heart-beating performance to somebody. Let them feel the bleeding of the music, okay? So you have to raise X amount of dollars. I've estimated that any performance could be between $25,000 and $45,000 if I'm going all the way out, giving it all I have to fundraise, right? Without cutting down the score demands.
Right.
Okay. So my job is to find a way to either pull favors or raise the money. I've chosen to do the latter. I want to raise the funds, give the musicians a feeling of ownership of this time, and then give the audience a chance to say, we're seeing something special.
Well, and it respects the musicians if you pay them.
Right.
I mean,
right.
I'm a big believer in paying artists. It's their profession.
Right, we have to eat. And I've done this, I've been an artist for as long as I can remember. I've paid my way with my music, my ability to make music. So in any case, my job, again, is to raise the capital between now and I'll begin in fall with my own productions. I begin in May with a collaborative thing. So I have two aspects I'm working on, collaboration and then my own productions. The collaboration is cool, I'll tell you about that. I essentially go up to somebody or someone calls me and is like, hey, I heard you have a chamber orchestra and we want to do something. I got a call from a Sarsuela company to do this in May.
Great.
Awesome.
Explain what Sarsuela is.
Oh, yes. I'm so glad you like this stuff. Okay, so Sarsuela is like a Latin version of opera. It has all the Latin instruments, like percussive instruments. It has standard instruments you'd find in an opera, but it's Latin themes, it's love. It's like a soap opera. Like a soap opera with Latin flavor and music.
But it's sung.
Oh, yes. It's literally like going to see Don Giovanni.
Yes.
But instead of Don Giovanni, you're hearing Latin music, and the form of the European form is still there, but it's Latin inspired.
Oh, it sounds like so much fun. Will this be in Tampa?
It will be at the Centro Asturiano.
The Centro Asturiano has a beautiful theater. It's gold and red.
Yeah, and they have a pit.
Historic. They have an opera pit. Wow.
Which drives me crazy.
So how many musicians would you use for something like that?
Good question. I've estimated in that pit space, I can fit between 15 and 20 comfortably.
You know what's cool is that the people who built that beautiful building 100 years ago built it exactly for this, for having live musicians and having performances like this. I mean, that was the heritage that they brought over from Spain, and they were entertaining their members with this kind of performance.
So no doubt they've had some Sarsuela in that space already.
Absolutely. Well, there used to be a company here, Spanish Lyric Opera, and they would perform zarzuelas.
This is a type of company I'm working with,
Great.
Spanish Lyric Theater, and they have a kind of tradition of doing zarzuela.
Yes.
This will be the first time I know of that they're doing it with a chamber orchestra.
Wow.
So we're going to have single winds, because remember, this is not a very large space, but it's good enough to really make this sound thick and authentic. So we have single winds, we have double on violins. So for each stand, we have two members, first violins, two, and all the way down to cello and double bass with percussion like harp, and it's going to be awesome.
Oh, this is going to be fabulous. This is in the spring?
This is in May, yes.
May of 2017.
23rd, 24th, and 26th. It'll be available on our website. And what I plan on doing is through the process, when we start rehearsals, kind of putting it on social media so people can see the process.
Oh, I think that's great.
It's very fascinating for people to see it. I don't think many people will get a chance to see the building. So when we start in January, basically the first duty I have is to get the score.
Uh-huh.
When the score comes, I get the parts. Then I dole the parts out to the musicians. I dole the contracts out saying this is how much you'll be paid, this is when you'll be paid. Then we send the schedule for rehearsals. Then we start recording this. So for example, we have to start with 5 or 6 rehearsals.
Mm-hmm.
I'll record those, let people see the process is important, just as important as the actual performance.
Oh, I think that's wonderful. And especially because people usually who go to these performances are older, and younger people haven't had the opportunity to see the performance or how they're put together.
Well, I think this is a fitting thing to start with my company when it comes to Zarzuela, because it's in Spanish, and this is a very Hispanic-oriented community. A lot of Cubans, a lot of Puerto Ricans, a lot of Dominicans, a lot of Hondurans here. So I think for the young community, this will be a refreshing change of scenery.
That would be great.
Because you can always find other things to go to that are awesome in the area, Latin concerts. And I would love to do that type of thing with my orchestra in the next year. But this will be great to start with.
So, Ezra, you keep saying my orchestra. You will be the leader. You will be the conductor.
I'll
yes?
be waving my hands.
I love it. That's great.
And I'll be playing some of the rehearsals too on piano just to get a feel with the musicians. But most importantly, I just want to connect. Connect with the musicians, connect with the audience. But I promise you I'd tell you some fun stuff too.
Great,
Okay.
I'm ready.
So, in my mind, the best thing we can get from an artistic perspective is a chance to have our own home, our own place. So my first tier is to make sure the next 3 to 4 years I structure my business well so I can provide a high level of performance at a subsidized cost for the arts organization, right?
That's a gift to the arts organization.
That's right, and to the community. So that's my
Absolutely.
first 3 to 5 years is just cultivating this process, making it systematic so that I can make sure I can deliver on the promise,
right,
and that I can expand it so there's a growth. I don't want to just be in Tampa. I want Tampa to be the apex. I would like to be able to go to other cities and provide that same service in Florida. Like, hey, you have a company, this is our plan for you.
Isn't it difficult to schedule all of this? I mean, I would think that would be one of the biggest challenges.
It will be, and I think starting off small gives me a chance to really understand what team I need in place.
Right.
Right now I'm building a small one with UCF marketing interns. I
Great.
have 3 of them now. So building a team like that and learning how to systematically formulate a process. So that's what I'll be doing for the next 3 to 5 years. How to make this systematic, how to make sure this is methodical and effective in delivering the product to the arts organization and the community. And then after that, just see where it takes me. I have some ideas, but
well, you
have
were
some fun.
mentioning that you have been a violist.
Yes.
And did you start making music as a child?
Oh yes. The first thing I did was come home from church and bang out a hymn I heard
That's
at church
great.
on the piano. And my dad was like, who is playing that? My mom was like, Ezra's on the piano. She's like, is he playing the hymn at church? So then they stuck me in a...
That's pretty good that you heard it and were able to replicate it.
Yeah, I was passionate about sound, So anyway, they were like, okay, let's stick him in front of a teacher. And they stuck me in front of a Russian teacher, and I've been in front of teachers ever since, learning.
Great.
I still do. I go to festivals all the time, just learning what I can about my craft and about the larger craft of making music.
Well, the idea of putting together affordable live music to accompany these performances is just a phenomenal idea. So have you been going around to the different organizations and presenting?
Yeah, so my plan right now is to make sure that I formulate a structure first, like we were talking about, a
Yes.
system. So what I've done essentially is I've done some networking, but I intern at the highest level. So Opera Tampa, I've been interning there for 3 years now. This is my third.
Great.
And they're doing some amazing stuff this evening. They're doing Tosca, from what I believe.
Yes, I read about that in the spring. It's going to be fabulous.
La Cenerentola, and I think they're doing a third, and I can't remember the name now. It's going to be awesome. But that is the highest level, okay? That is the lyric opera of our area, okay?
But St. Pete has a wonderful opera too.
I know. I was going to get to that. This level is very similar. It's a different approach. And I've been able to be privy to both approaches, a fascinating approach from both people. Different approaches, but fascinating and substantive from both of them. Mark Sforzini in St. Pete and Lipton here in Tampa. So anyway, I've been exposing myself to that process as an intern in both places to learn the ropes.
Right.
And then on the lower levels, I find companies that, hey, let's work together. Let's see if we can collaborate. Let's do an incubator, an art incubator. So that's what I've been doing on the bottom level, taking this next year to say, would you like to intern with me as an incubator? Let's do this together.
Oh, that's an exciting idea.
And taking two people who are not at that high level, but at a substantive level, we can do it, and sitting down at the table and structuring out the year so we can make it work together.
So now you said you had two main ideas, the one that you shared already and another one. What's the other?
Oh, I shared the collaborative idea.
Okay.
Okay, so the other idea is producing concerts.
Oh, wow.
So I love Hispanic music.
Yes.
I love, Caribbean music. Let's just say that. I love Caribbean music. So I'm going to do a series of concerts where essentially we take Caribbean music, Caribbean dancers, and we explore the music with the audience.
Oh, I think that would be hugely popular.
Oh my goodness. My mom's Jamaican.
Okay.
Okay. I wish I was Jamaican all the way. Anyway, so I've been to Jamaica a couple times, right?
Right.
Heard the music since I was a kid. I like to explore the music of the regions, just the area of the Caribbean in a concert format.
Oh, I think people would love that.
I know, some Bob Marley with orchestra.
Wow.
Yes, and recordings. Because
fun.
Mixing electronics with the live field is an underappreciated and maybe an underexplored area. I'd like to mix the two to really get the full essence of what it could be. So I want to do Caribbean, I want to do some South America type things from
I love
Honduras.
the idea of combining the music and dance and have it as a performance.
It's going to be great, mostly because the dance in itself, if you get a band, is great. But if you add a couple instruments that you wouldn't hear, for example, I play in Tampa Bay Symphony. I sit on purpose in the back. So I hear the trumpets, I hear trombones, I hear the woodwinds. So I hear oboe right behind me, and I hear the flute, and I hear the combination sometime. I'm like, amazing combination. You just don't hear that in synthesized music as much anymore, which is not a bad thing. It's a beautiful thing, because now we can bring them together.
And live is always more fun.
Yes, it is, because the element of surprise and change and inspiration. So those are the two ideas. Producing my own concerts where I can use my imagination and say, what do I want to see? And then put that on the stage.
I think Tampa Bay is ripe for this. This past summer, I heard Yo-Yo Ma's Silk Road Ensemble. Right. It was one of the most exciting performances I'd ever
Was that
witnessed.
here in Tampa?
It was at Tanglewood.
Oh.
And it was because you had these disparate musicians from all over the world, and they were riffing off each other. It was so dynamic. It was thrilling. It was also sold out. I mean, I really know that there's a market for this kind of exciting music.
Right.
People are hungry for it.
They are, and it will bring different types of people together.
I love that.
At the end of the day, this is not about how good I am as a musician, which I am. It's not about that, though. It's not about socioeconomic things. It's about people and seeing if you can get a 30-something-year-old like me seated next to a 60-something-year-old veteran. Like, you know, or getting a 18-year-old and sitting them right beside a 40-year-old from a different
Absolutely,
background.
absolutely.
That's the goal. If we can reach that goal, and music can be one of the ways to do it, which I think it really is the most effective way, music and dance, I think we've done what our society is craving for, connection.
And Ezra, I think you're completely right. And I think the visual arts, which I also love very much,
Yes.
but they're more complicated. I think when you
Right.
said earlier that music is so visceral
Right.
in dance, you feel it directly, and you don't
Right.
have to have, a catalog's worth of training. You can just get it, and it's...
That's interesting you bring that up, though, because when it comes down to it, that catalog, that standardized catalog of training and experiences are very important, right? We don't want to lose that.
It's enriching,
Yes.
but you don't have to have it to get the music.
Right. I think what I'd like to do and what I will do is find a way to marry that academic approach with the word we're using now, the visceral one, which is I'm just going to get out here and do whatever I want. Marrying that interpretive freedom with the standardized is very important. When you see a sheet of music, Beethoven's Fifth, that's just a sheet of music on a page. Ba-ba-ba-bum, ba-ba-ba-bum. Black notes with little symbols on it. It's not alive. It didn't start that way. Beethoven walked around, and in his head, in his body, in his surroundings, he heard it. It is our job as musicians to not recreate what's on the page, but to recreate what it is to be human, the human experience, the love, the hate, the stress, the pain, the excitement, the joy. That's what music and dance is. I'm recreating this in a safe place. The anger, a lot of people now are angry. They're angry about the political things. They're angry about economic things. Arts and dance, when you marry them together with music, that's the place we can safely explore this. Our frustration, our angst. Why is this happening? But in a safe, constructive place.
I agree, and it's cathartic.
That's right.
We have programs where we want to give young people first of all, the experience of seeing it, and secondly, the tools to create themselves, because they need that outlet.
Oh, I think the outlet to express, as you're saying, is important.
So Ezra, we have about a minute left.
Okay.
Is there anything else that I haven't asked that you'd like to share?
Well, yes, I think it's important to say that this art form is as old as it is new, and I want to explore it with people. America has something very unique. We're diverse. You know, Europe has a tradition, and we've brought that tradition over. I've been a part of it. I've learned to play and read music. But we have something else, and that is we are a group of immigrants that have found a way to live together for, a long time. And we've done it diplomatically so we have something to bring to the world. And I think my company is going to start doing that in a way that is American, yet embraces the world view.
I love that. And it's appropriate that it's in Florida, which is a melting pot.
It is. And we have a lot of visitors here too, so it's a great place to do it.
I am so glad that you were able to join me today. I feel like I've learned a lot. Do you have a website?
I do. It's the BADO, THEBADO.
When you first told me BADO, I thought that was the name of a form of dance. I didn't realize it stood for Ballet and Dance Orchestra. No, I think that's great. So thebado.com.
That's right.
Great.
Right. And you can check out some of our videos, look at our links, see some of our interns. We'll be adding stuff as it comes.
That's great. Well, you are a bright, energetic young person who is bringing such energy to this country, to this area, and I thank you, and I look forward to seeing some of these performances.
Thank you.
And thank you all for joining us today on Culture Vultures.
Vieni e senti del mio cuore